bring you high quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We gotta add a little addendum to the show map today, and shall we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto. This is your weekday morning show where we bring you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis. And today we got a very non-monochromatic show because we are going to be getting into the colorful realm of the altcoins. We're going to be talking about a bunch of them. We're going to be discussing ADA, XRP, Link, DOT, Bitcoin, maybe even a little bit of Ethereum. We got a bunch of different news to talk about, having to do with the Senate, having to do with Coca-Cola, and having to do with job reports. A lot to break down and tie all together in today's show. We're very much looking forward to it, and we have a very special guest that will be joining us a little bit later, and we're looking forward to that. If you do enjoy today's show, there's a few things you can do to support us. Number one, hit that like button. We've already got a bunch of likes on the stream. Thank you very much to everybody who tuned in. Number two, you can also become a member using that join button down below to help support us on a regular basis. That will get you a green name, which we're going to be reading here pretty soon. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media, subscribe to the channel, and check out our affiliate links down below. All of those are ways that you can support us. If there's any way that we can support you, please do let us know. But I am joined, as always, by T.A. Tim. How you doing, Tim?
I am doing fantastic. It's good to be back.
Boom.
That conference I went to, the Global Leadership Summit, yes, the GLS, was phenomenal. I'm going to find a way next year, Jebb, to try to get a lot of people signed up. Even I remember, it was absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. You guys do not want to miss that one. If you have the opportunity in the future to go, maybe some of you have been to it before. It was awesome. But, it's gonna be a good day today. It's Optimistic Monday.
Optimistic Mondays.
It's an easy day to be optimistic because unless you haven't gone over and looked at CoinMarketCap or your TradingView or whatever you look at for prices, it seems like everything is up. And there's some good signs that upward momentum can continue. Now, the question is for how long, but, we're going to keep it optimistic today. We're just going to talk about the up. And I'm excited to get CVO. Paul, he's going to be coming on. I got to talk with him a little bit a couple weeks ago. He just specializes in altcoin charts and trading, and I'm not just talking about day trading and stuff. I'm talking about scalp trading, day trading, swing trading. He goes on all these altcoins. So I'm super excited to get him on here later on and pick his brain on what he's seeing and some trade setups that he's excited about. But yeah, that
is absolutely right. Well, guys, we have another incredible introduction. Before I jump to him, though, because he's going to read green names, I also want to go ahead and announce something. On the 16th of August, our channel will be officially renamed to Coffee and Crypto Live, and that, at least at the moment, looks like that will probably be my last show. That is the last time that I will be on the channel, I believe. That is subject to change, but that is the working plan right now. T.A. Tim will be hosting the new show and will be taking over as the host from there on. Guys, I'm really excited about this rebrand. I'm really excited about the direction that the channel is going, and I'm very, very thankful that I have a team behind me that I can leave everything in their hands because I really trust everybody who works on this team. I'm really excited about what Smay and Tim and T-Shirm are doing, so definitely be on the lookout for that. Remember the date, August 16th. Of this year, 2022. It will be next Tuesday. Stay tuned for that. Tim will be hosting, but I will be there. I am also joined, as always, by the man who's not a square, but very interesting. Smay. How you doing, Smay?
I'm not a square.
You're not a square. You heard it here first.
Yeah, because if you were a square, that would be pretty monochromatic.
That would be pretty monochromatic.
I think.
I agree.
Oh, wow. Anyways, guys, that was
almost
great.
Like we were challenged to something before the stream started.
Anyways, time to read some green names.
Got mine in.
I gotta be honest with you guys. Green names is my favorite chromatic. Green is my favorite chromatic. In fact, I like that it's like mono.
But isn't green monochromatic because it's one color?
You're definitely not using the word correctly at this point.
It's mono. So I like reading green because it's monochromatic because it's one color.
I say we veto this and have to make him do it again.
Okay. Anyways.
Well, there's a blue color in there as well, and those are still members. They're just at a different level.
But it's, I feel very monochromatic about this.
Let's just switch all the verbs.
All right, guys. I'm going to read these green names. All right, guys. We have here, all right. So we have Elliot Locke. We got Mitch Shaw. We got Gia S. We got Kelly Kellum. We got CryptoSec guy. We got Matt. Oh, that's not a member. We got Freedom Advocate. We got Win People.
That's not a member.
We got Ancient Gold.
Golly.
We got Mike Lowry. We have Tyler Main. Wowzers. Who else we got here?
The curb,
we
dude.
got Grand Roofing Incorporated. We got Philly
Grand
Fan
Roofing
61.
Incorporated.
We got JoJo. We got a Mellow Fellow. We got shout out to JT Skinner because he put a lot of turtle emojis. So shout out to him.
That's pretty cool.
We have Jordan James. We got
chromatic.
so many great people. Grand Roofing Incorporated. But most importantly, where are you going? Oh, I don't know why I just spoiled
Walked
what's
off
coming
camera.
up. I just spoiled. Anyways,
You're just awkwardly standing here between the desks, Tim.
you guys will see what I just.
Spot to be in.
You guys will see what I just paused at here in just a second. I was very confused. But anyways, shout out to Caleb Franzen in the chat. I love Caleb Franzen.
Oh, shout out to Caleb.
Anyways, guys, I'm gonna send it back over to Tim.
Hey, it's T-Shroom here.
Whoa! Who's that?
I have shape-shifted into Tim, and there's nothing that I want to do more than ask, really request that Smay go ahead and jump over to my screen.
It would be my pleasure.
As we dive right on into the market pulse. First of all, Chainlink says protocol will not support Ethereum proof of work. And that is a really interesting development there. The Chainlink protocol will continue operations on Ethereum after the upcoming merge to the proof of stake consensus layer, but it won't do it for the any proof of work forks that come up. In an official announcement, the Chainlink protocol revealed that its services will remain on the Ethereum blockchain post the long-awaited merge. Their Ethereum blockchain anticipates the merge in September 22, which will merge its mainnet with the Beacon chain. Therefore, the latest announcement, Chainlink urged its users to prepare their smart contract operations accordingly to avoid future mishaps during and after the implementation of proof of stake. The Ethereum merge is a major milestone in the crypto industry. The transition from proof of work to proof of stake has been a key talking point in the community as a solution towards sustainability, scalability, and enhanced decentralization. But the big news here, however, critics of such a protocol switch say that proof of stake is less secure and therefore more susceptible to security breaches. So a little bit of criticism for this proof of stake transition on behalf of Ethereum. But of course, there's always going to be criticism for big movements like this, especially in a very opinionated space like cryptocurrency. But the big news here, of course, is that Chainlink will not be servicing proof of work forks after Ethereum, and that's a pretty big deal. But tell us what you think about that in the comments. Jebb, did you have any thoughts about that?
No, I think it's just really important that Chainlink is staying on top of his game to be sure that it's able to, survive and thrive after the Ethereum 2.0 launch. I mean, if ETH 2.0 had a launch when it was supposed to a couple years ago, then Chainlink wouldn't really be anything right now. Probably it would probably have had to either be developed differently or it would have fallen by the wayside. At this point, it's developed enough that I think it'll be just fine even without it supporting Ethereum transactions on the current main proof of work ecosystem, though.
Absolutely. Cool.
Screen.
So the Senate passes a sweeping climate change and health and tax package, putting Democrats on the cusp of a historic win. Some of you aren't going to like this article, but I'm reading it, and we're covering this just for the sake of this is a very big bill, very high dollar value, and so it is important, especially if you are invested in the renewables industry. And then there also is a little bit of a take here toward the end that I will make. The legislation dubbed the Inflation Reduction Act now heads to the House, which plans to return from its summer recess on Friday, pass the legislation, and send it to Biden's desk for signature. So this is all but passed, so it's just a matter of time here for this bill. The 555-page bill includes $430 billion to combat climate change and extend health care coverage paid for with the savings on prescription drugs and taxes on corporations. The bulk of the spending, more than $300 billion, are investments to tackle climate change and boost clean energy, including incentives for farmers and ranchers to reduce methane emissions and extension of the electric vehicle tax, and the launch of a national climate bank that would make investments in clean energy technology and energy efficiency. So that's a real. I haven't heard anything about this national climate bank until now. That's a really interesting development there.
T-Shroom, can I chime in real quick?
What
you know who I would wish would lower their methane emissions? You, T-Shroom.
Wow. That's a really
Solve the world's climate
productive
crisis right there.
Really productive comment in addition to our market pulse. I really appreciate that, Smay. And
monochromatic, you know.
yeah.
Oh, very monochromatic.
His cheeks aren't monochromatic. I think he's blushing.
All right, keep going.
The legislation would empower Medicare to negotiate prices with drug companies for the first time. I didn't know that wasn't the status quo already. That's pretty interesting that doesn't exist. So that's pretty interesting. I guess it's the insurers that are doing the negotiating with drug companies, but so that's a big change. The bill also raises revenue through a 15% minimum tax on large corporations through accelerated depreciation, and accelerated depreciation would be exempt. A key ask of centrist Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, senator. So that's kind of the big takeaway, because this would have been done if Kyrsten Sinema, this bill would not have passed if Kyrsten Sinema was not on board, and she's on board because of that tax exemption there that gets to stay around. They are balancing this, though. In theory, they're balancing the budget on this bill by implementing a new 1% excise tax on stock buybacks from corporations. So now when Apple wants to buy back some of its stock, it's got to pay a 1% tax on presumably the change in the stock price. I'm not exactly sure how that will work, but if theoretically that's going to fund this entire bill. So that's a really big one. And of course, my take here, and I would like to get your input on this, Jebb. A lot of money is going into the renewables, and there's an entire bank now, a national climate bank, that's going to be opened. I wonder if Ethereum moving to proof of stake in this moment, in this year, is going to have anything to do with this. If potentially there's some investment that could go into the newly minted proof of stake cryptocurrency. Jebb, what do you think?
Well, for sure. I mean, I think you have to go back to the question of how is the government viewing cryptocurrency. A lot of people in the government are viewing cryptocurrency as, the next generation of finance, and they want to help that because they want their constituents to go and be able to make money and stimulate their own economies with cryptocurrency. But then you have some of these other higher-ranking politicians that are more, I'll just say it, authoritarian, and they're scared of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency because Bitcoin and cryptocurrency takes away power from the powers that be and puts it in the hands of, trustless third-party code and the individual. So there is, and has been, and will continue to be at an even greater and accelerating rate, a lot of division around cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is kind of splitting party lines, and you have different. It's causing, at least in the United States, for politicians to come out and for us to realize, okay, it's not so much on Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative lines anymore. Now it is that, because cryptocurrency hasn't taken over everything, but it's starting to really show us, okay, who's a libertarian-minded Republican or Democrat, and who's an authoritarian or a big government-minded Republican or Democrat. And depending on how this bank is set up, and whether or not the people that run this bank are going to be appointed, for example, with the U.S. Federal Reserve, or if it's going to be its own independent, national. But depending on how the people that are in charge get appointed and what people are in charge is going to determine whether or not they invest in Bitcoin and crypto. If the bank is set up in such a way that they are legally able to invest in cryptocurrency, and you have influential powers that could invest in cryptocurrency, then yeah, I could see that. The only thing is that with this announcement, they're not so much talking about investing in things that are climate friendly. They're talking about investing in things that are generating renewable energy. So the question of whether or not they would invest in this is difficult to see. I don't really think they would, but I think this is going to help us see who believes in small government and individual and, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and who believes in collective and big government and the community, rather. So,
absolutely. Always an interesting take from Big Jebb there. All right, so another story, Polygon Studios, Twitter here. Experience the real magic of friendship. Coca-Cola has just launched first-of-a-kind generative and shareable collectibles on Polygon to celebrate International Friendship Day, and you can read more there. We're not going to go into super big details.
Was that a hint at Disney? The real magic?
It could be. I mean, Coca-Cola and Disney definitely have tons, a long colored history of.
You're saying they have a non-monochromatic history.
I wouldn't say that. No, I don't endorse the use of that M word. So, so we're gonna.
Well, now I feel dirty. Like what?
Yeah, you should.
I should. Oh wow, I feel attacked now too.
All right, but yeah, Coca-Cola and Polygon doing big things. Polygon just cannot get off the win train. So it's just win after win for big Polygon. If you're in Matic, you're probably got a big smile on your face over this last
Big
month.
Coca-Cola in your hand.
All right, well, we'll finish up. The market has digested the jobs numbers from last week that came out on the 5th, I believe. The payroll increased 528,000 in July, much better than expected, and a sign of strength for the job market. Very, very good data for the job market. So if you're an employee, you're coming out favorable on this. But if you're the stock market or the equities markets, and Bitcoin tends to be correlated with that, you're probably not feeling as good about that unemployment number. Non-farm payroll rose 528,000 for the month, and the unemployment rate was 3.5%, easily topping the Dow Jones estimate of 3.6, respectively. So wage growth also surged as an average hourly earnings jumped 0.5 for the month and 5.2 for a year ago, higher than estimates.
But still not keeping up with inflation.
Yeah, well,
which is what we have to compare it against.
Inflation is a big, muscly Usain Bolt at this point, so it's going to be tough to keep up with it. But wages,
big muscly Usain Bolt.
But 5.2% year over year, I think, is a pretty aggressive wage growth.
It is.
So, all right, traders are now pricing in a higher likelihood of a 75 basis point hike for the next Federal Reserve meeting in September, and we are big lovers of this CME futures tool for trying to predict that Fed fund outcome. And right now, as you can see, so this represents a 50 basis point hike, and this represents a 75 basis point hike. We are currently, it's still pretty close at this point, but 58% are saying 75, and that is a switch from last week. Previously, last week, it was very decisively 50 basis point hike at 93%. And so something has changed, and what that something is very clearly, very squarely, the jobs report from last week, which now the market has digested. So I am going to vanish. I'm going to disappear. And but before I do, Jebb, what do you think about these job numbers?
I think they're really good. I think that it's really encouraging because we did technically just enter a recession based on the definition of a recession. But the tricky thing is that when you look at the job growth beating estimates, that's wonderful. But as I said earlier, 5.2% wage growth over the last year. Well, we're looking at, what is it, 8.7%? I think I actually have a note on it right now. 8.7% is, 9.1% is what we reported for inflation the last time it was reported. People are forecasting 8.7% year over year right now. I honestly would not be surprised if inflation ticked higher when we have that announcement here in a couple of days. But the fact of the matter is, inflation is outpacing wage growth, which means people are having less and less margin in their personal finances to be able to pay for things like any kind of luxuries, to be able to pay for things like investments in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, to be able to pay for things like, going on trips, hospitality, cruise lines, eating out, etc. Anything that's not a necessity, people are finding it much harder to be able to buy those things because either they've lost their jobs. Now, luckily, there's been a lot of new jobs, or they are in a position where they just don't have the money to spend on some of the luxuries that they were using before, which can lead to a slowdown in the economy and in the GDP. And if that doesn't get itself resolved, then that is something that can spiral, where you have people being able to afford less and less and less, and thus the GDP starts to, it's at least harder for the GDP to grow and grow and grow. The GDP can shrink. When the GDP shrinks, you start losing jobs, which leads to wages declining, and then you get yourself into an extended recession, or if you get far enough, you get into a depression. I don't think that's going to happen, but it is a very important positive feedback loop. Not positive as in good, but positive as in it continues to build itself. It's a very negative, positive, very bad positive feedback loop that if it doesn't get under control, then we will run into some issues. But, Tim, do you have any thoughts on any of those articles before we jump into some TA?
No, I mean, I think it's gonna be interesting to watch the ripple effects when ETH 2.0 comes out. So again, right, what he was talking about right there, Chainlink is not going to use anything that splits away and stays proof of work. Does that include Ethereum Cash? I don't know if Ethereum Cash is already on.
Ethereum Cash?
Ethereum Classic?
Yeah.
Classic, that's Bitcoin Cash. Yeah. I'm thinking ETC, you're right.
Yeah.
Ethereum Classic, is going to include Ethereum Classic. Obviously, anything that forks from Ethereum right now, they're not going to take it. Then there's the ripple effects of what we were just talking about with Polygon. I was telling them this morning, about a month ago, I kind of hinted at, hey guys, I'm not saying it's not going to do well, but I have some questions about Matic, Polygon Matic. Is it going to be able to stay competing and be really productive in the sense that Ethereum will somewhat not need it anymore, seeing as that they're going to be moving to proof of stake, able to access faster? First of all, in my research finding, and I think a lot of you guys know this as well, so I'm not breaking ground here. You guys already know this, but Ethereum 2 still will not work as fast as Polygon. But then with these two new relationships they just formed, Disney and now Coca-Cola, two massive brands, massive companies, they know what ETH 2.0 is doing. They know what's coming out, and yet they chose Polygon anyway. So I need to apologize to anyone who was trying to tell me back then Polygon, Tim, is not going anywhere. And I was like, I don't know yet. I'm kind of sitting on the fence. I'm not on the fence anymore. I think Polygon is here to stay. I still think Polygon can become a top 10 coin. So good for them,
Yeah, absolutely. I think Polygon has a very bright future ahead of it. It's got a very storied past, and I think you're going to end up seeing a lot of growth out of it. But let's go ahead and jump here into some technical analysis. We're going to start off with a little bit of a Bitcoin overview because we can't skip Bitcoin. I mean, come on. We got to look at what Bitcoin's doing. Maybe we'll look at Ethereum just briefly because it is doing pretty well. And then we're going to jump into a bunch of TA in the second part of the show with our guest, who we will be introducing here in a little while. Let's go ahead and jump onto Bitcoin. First thing I'm seeing over here is that Bitcoin has been rallying quite substantially over the last couple of hours. You can see around 1 a.m. this morning, Bitcoin was trading at $23,300. Over the last 9 hours, it's up 3.67% to $24,136. That is pretty substantial. 4% growth in 9 hours. We like to see it. We want to see some of that growth coming out of Bitcoin. This does break the shorter term trend of setting lower highs and lower lows that we've been under ever since the 30th of July on the hourly chart here. You can see that we set a new higher high here on the 7th of August, which was last night around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 1700 hours. Then we've set a new higher high. On top of that, there's also an inverse head and shoulders pattern forming here on Bitcoin. And to be honest with you, you could even call this a nested inverse head and shoulders pattern with a left shoulder there, right shoulder there, then a bigger left shoulder here, bigger right shoulder here, and then we have our head here. These are your shoulders, and then these are your shoulders. So you have a double inverse head and shoulders pattern coming into play here. That's pretty nice. Whenever you see that occur, you could also call that a rounded bottom. That's what we're looking at right now, is kind of this cup formation. We could even see this turn into a cup and handle formation, which if you guys are in Club DeFi or if you went through CT2A back when that was around, then you will probably be familiar with the cup and handle formation. It is where you have a rounded bottom followed by a downtrending trading channel right here, and then you use an extrapolation like this to predict where the market's going to go. If we did that, we'd be looking at a $26,000 Bitcoin roughly. We don't have enough data to really do the prediction yet because we haven't seen the handle form, but we could be looking at 26K coming in here on Bitcoin. If we zoom out to the daily chart, though, there are a few things that could stand in the way of that. First and foremost, we are in a rising wedge. Rising wedges typically break to the downside with about 70% likelihood. So if we do see Bitcoin continue moving up like this and we break to the downside, then of course that price prediction will probably not come into play, although it's possible because we could bounce all the way up to the top of the rising wedge, use that as resistance, and that would be a 26K break, and then we could drop to the downside. On top of that, if we look back in the long term, we had this falling wedge that we broke bearish out of, whereas we were hoping we'd break bullish out of it, but we broke bearish out of it. In that time frame, we actually continued this downtrend, and it's currently sitting at resistance at 25K. 250. So when we're looking at our price levels on Bitcoin, we need to be paying very close attention to anything around $25,250 all the way up to about $26,000. This, in my opinion, is the zone to beat on Bitcoin right now. Is it going to get beat? I can't tell you that just yet, but I do believe that you want to be looking pretty closely at those levels. Now, if you look out to the weekly chart as well, there are some things that are encouraging. First and foremost, we do have a bullish MACD cross that has now been confirmed. That's super good. We wanted to see that. That does indicate that we are hopefully going to see some more bullish growth over the next several weeks. That would potentially be the beginning of a big movement to the upside. It is possible that we are out of the massive drop that we've been watching ever since November 10th. You can see that's pretty much how the market moved here in December 18, January 19, February 19, March 19, dropped substantially, kind of rallied very slowly, and then we started taking off 3-4 months later. We could already be through the first 2 months of this drop, and we could start to see Bitcoin moving to the upside up to the mid-30s, up to 40 over the next couple of months, if we're able to see Bitcoin sustain this growth. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that even though in the short term it looks like we're trading sideways, on the long term, we're actually bouncing pretty quickly here. We're moving to the upside about a 45-degree angle. So don't get discouraged if Bitcoin sits up here below 25K and trades sideways for like a month or two. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if that does, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sitting above 20K in any capacity right now is very, very bullish. Looking here on the weekly chart, we can also see that there is a green candlestick formation right here 3 weeks ago. Then there was a red candlestick formation 2 weeks ago, or 1 week ago rather, and then we're seeing today is a green candlestick formation that is open today. If this closes green, That's going to be wonderful because that means we'll have a green, red, green formation. Last time we saw that, we saw bullishness. We definitely want to see that continue. One final thing I'll show you, actually 2 final things I'll show you here. Number 1, if we're going to see Bitcoin go into a prolonged uptrend, we're probably going to look for a daily chart, then a 3-daily chart, then a weekly chart, bullish Lux Algo buy signal. We don't have a bullish buy signal on Lux Algo yet, but if we do, that would be substantial. Be keeping a close weather eye on the buy signals coming in from Lux Algo. If we do get up to 25 to 26K, the encouraging thing is that that would probably trigger a buy signal, which could indicate that we're about to go into a big rally. That's pretty exciting. We're even farther below where we need to go to get that buy signal on 3-daily chart. But again, 25, 26, 27K, that's the range you're going to want to be looking at. Then out on the weekly chart, we're not even close. We probably need to be up at 40K before we got a buy signal. But if we did, then that would definitely, not definitely, but likely mean that we're off to the races. Like I said, final thing here on the daily chart, on the weekly chart for Bitcoin is that we are currently back above the 200 weekly simple moving average. You can see I have it up on the chart right here. That's a 300 down there. We fell below it briefly in the same way that we did during the pandemic drop back in March of 2020, but we have rallied since then. We rallied it from there all the way up to 65K. Right now, we have gotten back above that moving average, indicating that in the long term, on the long-term perspective, we've held it. We broke below it briefly, but really, if we look back on this in 5 years, we're going to say, okay, we held that. We didn't technically hold it here in March, but pretty much, if you look at it, we held it. That's kind of what we're going to be looking at here, I do believe. I think you'll hold above $22,000, at least for the most part, over the next several months as we consolidate, get the fundamentals in place. The fundamental landscape, the fundamentals of Bitcoin are in place, but the growth of the space and the stability of the space and the headwinds die down a little bit, and then you'll hopefully start seeing that rally moving into Q4 of 2020, in 2022, and then also Q1 of 2023. As far as Ethereum, just want to give you a quick little update on this, and then we're going to jump into some other content here. You can see Ethereum is rallying very quickly right now. It's rallied all the way up through the level I was talking about last week at $1,700. 1,700 is a very important level. This is where we were bottoming out in May of 2021, June 2021, July 2021. This is where we saw the bottoms come in over here in May and June of 2022 as well. We've been using it as resistance. We even set all-time highs around $1,500 to $1,700 back over here in February and March of 2021. Incredibly important level that Ethereum is currently breaking through. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that ETH is also, just like Bitcoin, but in a slightly different way, setting an ascending triangle, an ascending wedge. If we break bearish out of that, be looking for $1,400 to $1,300 pullback on ETH. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because remember, all-time high on Ethereum back in January of 2018 was 1,480. So if we do pull back there, retest all-time high, we could bounce with a lot of strength from there. I am really encouraged by how much Ethereum is rallying. I do hope that continues until ETH 2, and that helps bring back some of the kindling and some of the fuel into the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency market. We definitely have a lot of investment coming into the space right now, and even more sitting on the sideline waiting to come in. They're waiting to see if Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to be able to push through the economic and geopolitical headwinds that we are facing right now. And if they are able to get some traction, I think you're going to see a lot of institutions dump some gasoline on the fire, and you're going to see a big rally moving on into 2023. But right now, we are, for the most part, in a season of waiting and patience. Tim, what are some of your thoughts on Bitcoin and Ethereum and the outlook?
So I'm going to start off with a chart that we didn't cover there, and this is a very, very, very important chart, and that's the DXY. The DXY, I'm on the daily right here, currently is wrestling with a line that used to be resistance, then turned into support, and then we broke through and are using it as resistance again. At the moment, we're under a red candle, but this is going to be something that's really interesting to keep an eye on. And the reason why is because I think Tishum touched on it in Market Pulse. But it's a little bit of a surprise that Bitcoin did what it did. So when we're talking about, when you go down to these lower charts, let me get this. There's these massive green candles we had in the hourly chart. It was a little confusing because we have the news coming out about the job space, and right now the unemployment rate decreased to 3.5%. From a fundamental news perspective, that should have been bearish on the price. And the reason why is because with that number being there, with this new definition of recession that the government and the Fed are going by to deem if we're in a recession or not, with that definition and the unemployment rate being low, that allows Jerome Powell to give more pressure to raising interest rates to fight inflation. Well, what does that do? That brings more power to the dollar, or if we're looking at the DXY, it should allow the price of DXY to go up, which would cause the crypto, stock market, all those equities markets, those will see a little bit of a dip. So it's a little interesting to keep an eye on what happens here. Are we just waiting till we actually get the 75 basis point hike, or maybe even higher if the unemployment numbers stay low and inflation keeps rising? Could we see Jerome actually start getting aggressive, thinking that he wants, the economy's in good spot, we're just going to go ahead and attack this inflation? Keep your eyes on what's happening there, because here's another thing. As Jebb mentioned, I have it drawn a little bit different. Well, I think he had it drawn kind of like this. I have us in a rising wedge right now on Bitcoin. Especially, let's go down to the 4-hour chart and take a look at this. I have us in a rising wedge, which breaks bearish, and guess where we're kind of heading towards? With that rising level of resistance towards that golden pocket of 25.4 to 25.7 I've been talking about now for, I think it's been like 2 weeks now. I still see that as a spot to look at. And when you're pulling up RSI, come on now, RSI on the 4-hourly chart is getting overextended. The hourly chart, it's already been overextended. We've been up here now for a little bit now. The daily chart, we got some room to grow, which is why I think we could still go higher. The problem is with that rising wedge, with that rising level of resistance, with us sitting right at the golden pocket, which is a spot that you pull back to during retracements. Remember, our primary trend right now is still bearish, and the golden pocket is a great spot to pull back at and to say, all right, let's go back to that spot before we continue our downward momentum. And we're looking at the sentiment of the space is actually probably favoring the bears with that job report coming out. Whether it's accurate or not, it's the data they're going to use to make their decisions over at the Fed. I am still expecting. I almost think, Jebb, that this is kind of like a fake out. We know the everything should go bearish. Look at that low volume. Let's just raise the price. Let's get some shorts liquidated, and then let's short it down the road when we hit this level of resistance, hit that golden pocket, and the price goes back down. If we break through, we can definitely go up to 30. I'm not saying we can't do that. Right now though am just a little skeptical of this little rally we've had. Because it doesn't actually make sense. The only thing that makes sense is that this is a manipulation move to kind of get rid of some shorts and take some money away from retail investors, and then they're going to short it down the road when we hit 25.4.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think that's a fair point, but I would counter that with the fact that we've seen a lot of the headwinds that Bitcoin was facing start to die off. 3 Arrows Capital is kind of starting to fade away. The Luna fiasco is starting to fade away. So I think what we're seeing right now is also something I talked about with another YouTuber several weeks ago, which is that it's not so much that the bulls are a lot stronger right now, it's that the bears are getting weaker. And so I think it is still predominantly a bearish narrative, but I think the reason that we're rallying here is not because the bulls are super strong, it's because the bears are getting weaker. Now, the problem with that, as you were talking about, is that when the bears do come back, they're not fighting much. It's just that they took a break. So we're going to have to see what happens there. The thing to keep in mind is that we are not in a bull market right now. We are also really not in a bear market, it doesn't seem like. We're starting to go into an accumulation phase. I do agree that the rally that we're under right now is very weak, and that we need to definitely treat it with some hesitation. But with that said, we have a very exciting guest that we want to bring on. He is an expert in altcoins, and he's got a lot of great opinions on several different coins. We're going to be talking about a bunch of them today, including ADA, XRP, and a few others. I am joined by none other than the one and the only, the CVO. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, Jebb, Tim, everybody. I'm doing well. Pleasure to be on here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. I heard you've been talking with Tim about some of the different altcoins that we're going to be discussing today. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking a little bit. He had asked me what I was looking into. Honestly, I have a pretty big Rolodex of coins that I'm always kind of keeping in the watch list. But the big ones, I called them the big boys earlier, are the ones that are looking pretty decent. Obviously, with Ethereum, Chainlink, Cardano, Polkadot. Avalanche. I think Avalanche and Stellar got listed on Robinhood today, which was interesting to see. But yeah, just a good bunch for sure.
Paul, before we jump on the charts, I want to, for anyone who doesn't know CVO, I want to hear a little bit about you. What do you do? Because I've gotten to know you and Magic Internet Money. You guys have like a team. What is going on over there? What do you guys do every single day? And why should people listen to what you're having to say on the charts as expertise in the trading field?
Yeah, absolutely. So, myself and my partner, Magic Internet Money, who has been on this show as well, I think a couple weeks in the past. You and I, Tim, have obviously been on a couple of shows on Debate Crypto as well.
Yeah.
But the two of us, we run the leading crypto Discord server. So it's essentially an educational trading group. We really do focus a lot more on the educational side of things. We trade off of ranges based on volume. And with that, we kind of initiate different, methods and kind of the modern tools that kind of go along with that. And, Tim kind of hit on it earlier today, where it's like, when you say you trade crypto or this and that, I think everybody alludes to the fact that you only day trade. And that's not necessarily the case. And the thing between the two of us, which is pretty dynamic, is that, Magic literally spends about the same time I spend on 50 altcoin charts. He'll spend all that time just in Bitcoin. So he has got, Bitcoin nailed down to a T, which is obviously pretty important to, kind of identify, the kind of a pulse on the market, so to speak, is obviously what happens with Bitcoin. When Bitcoin catches a cold, or, that whole thing, Bitcoin catches a sneeze or the altcoins catch cold, whatever. But, and then I go in and I analyze the altcoins as well. So I kind of try to keep it on a bigger, higher time frame, things like more so in the, mid to long term hold. So, that could be weeks, months, over a longer period of time. We also do, provide day trading opportunities as well. We actually host live trading sessions in our group as well. Today, we actually had one right before the show. And then as far as just a little bit about me, real quick, I've been in the space since 2017. Actually, really, really honored to be on here with Jebb, on his kind of, unfortunate transition on the way out. But, I got my coffee here for the coffee and crypto.
Cheers.
For the last hurrah.
Come on. My coffee for once. Normally drinking an energy drink, but I have coffee.
And, I've been watching Jebb, man, since, basically since you began. So,
wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All good things, man. So
I just want to, the last thing I'll say, and then I'm going to let, you jump on the charts and go through this. For anyone who's wondering, I have gotten to know Paul and Kagan, Magic Internet Money, here over the last couple months. And I just cannot speak more volume to how much I respect their work, how much I love getting to watch them do their thing. So get ready. I mean, they're going to be normal. Like, they're going to be here on the show for a while. So go follow them, stay up to date with them. And again, they're going to be on the show pretty regularly because I just love everything they're doing. And they want to they have the same heartbeat that we have to educate the space, to help every single individual person take control over their own finances and create that financial sovereignty. So, I'll turn it back over to Jebb for questions you want, but, just wanted to give a massive shout out to Paul. He is phenomenal. Go follow him.
Well, Paul, I am really excited for you to be on the show today, and I'm really excited to jump into some of this altcoin TA. You mentioned Ethereum. I was going to start with Cardano, but since Ethereum is moving so much, I'd really love to hear your opinion on what's going on over on the Ethereum chart. Is this rally that we're undergoing sustainable? Are we going to hold the 200 weekly simple moving average? Are we going to see a big rally moving, into and past Ethereum 2.0? There's just so much to unpack here. We'll have to probably keep it to one of those questions, but take it in any direction you want. I really just want to hear your overall thoughts on the ETH market because I'm pretty excited about it right now, personally.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. Should have probably tested that. Hope it works.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be fine.
Yeah.
All right. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my ETH chart, I've been working off this, obviously it's my Bitcoin to Magic's, side of it. I go off of ETH quite often, and what I'm looking at here is, once again, we base things off of range data based on volume, right? So this grayed out section right here is an old range from last year. So basically the entire crypto market, all assets essentially range, most of the time to some degree. We fell back into this old range from last year, back in June 11th. And we were targeting a high volume target known as the point of control, and then also the overall range low down here, this orange line. We did, kind of briefly poke down, deviated towards that weekly. But if you go to the daily time frame, you'll notice that we never closed a daily outside of this range, right? So this was definitely the area to, consider putting on some risk. Now, if you zoom in a little bit to this smaller region right here, this is the same structural area that, we saw Bitcoin pretty much creating over the last few weeks. Mm-hmm. This was the area where we were, everybody was really getting excited about a possible Adam and Eve double bottom, right? And then we basically just rotated all the way back down to the lows once again. Ethereum ended up pushing a bit higher, kind of leading the charge a few weeks back. And for me, I was looking for this monthly key level. We also have the, as you said earlier, the 2017 all-time high. And then essentially we were targeting for the overall highs here. So we basically ran it up, came back. Essentially we've already back tested that 2017 all-time high. And now we're breaking out of this range. So it's really good to see, because that's a pretty bullish scenario right here. Obviously, in the term of an invalidation at this point, where you want to start looking back lower, we start looking to see if we close dailies back below 1640 once again. The only thing that really leads me to something in that nature is that we did leave last month's untapped monthly key level. So this is a high time frame. This is the average of price for last month, basically. And we don't tend to leave too many untapped, but we did leave it here. It's about 1450. So it kind of lines up with Jebb, how you were saying, if we get a pullback in this region, right? You were looking back down to like 1300.
Yeah.
After that, you know, to me, if you're not in a position already, the best entry, the new entry, the fresh longs, the fresh powder, so to speak, the best area, if we get it, would be back down here. This is the structural, once again, the highest volume area right here. You got you got the golden pocket here as well. You got the value area high in this region. So, and then, you know, just in general, that'd be a really big pullback, however. So that's something I got to keep in mind. That's the lower side here, but for the, you know, in the for the bullish term now, you know, because we are in a good sense here, we essentially broke out of this range and back tested it, very similar to if you get a falling wedge and you get the breakout back test. I mean, essentially that's what we've done here. Something like both Quant and Matic had really big moves, very similar to this recently. They broke out of the range, back tested it, and obviously continued on very well. With this being said, I look at ETH in a couple of different ways. So I zoomed in a little bit for this smaller area to just kind of like really dial it in on this region. But now that we're kind of breaking out, you know, the next question would be, what's next, right? And looking at the way I'm looking at all my altcoins right now is I'm looking at all of them on a quarterly basis. So I'm looking at the volume from the last quarter, essentially. And now ETH is in this overall range here. Came down, obviously the lows share the same levels accordingly. But the high of this region comes all the way up here at about $2,400. Mm-hmm. You got another untapped monthly key level up in this region. You've got a golden pocket, your macro golden pocket, essentially from the whole move down from 3,600, your last high, all the way down to this region. And for me, this has been a big target in the sense of, if we make it up to this area, that's a 40% move. You're going to have to imagine Bitcoin is going to have to push 20-30% as well. So this to me would be kind of the biggest caution, area, because we'd probably run into the biggest resistances we've had in quite a while. You also be looking at Ethereum would, have an impulse of almost 200% over a course of a few months. And personally, I'm looking for things to essentially kind of range it out for, quite a bit next couple of months here. So this would be the bigger, the region I'd be looking for, or, definitely not looking to take any new positions up in this region. Really have to see how things progress when we get up there, if we get up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you were talking about with arranging it out is really important for us to know, because the whole idea of the whole market moving sideways is going to be pretty. I think that's going to impact all of the cryptocurrencies, and it's going to kind of set the stage and the stage for all of the rest of the cryptocurrencies. And speaking about the rest of the cryptocurrencies, let's go ahead and jump into some others. I'd really love to hear your opinion on Cardano as well, because speaking of ranging sideways, ADA has been sitting sideways for a good while now. It's been sitting down here at its local lows for quite a bit longer than the rest of the cryptocurrency space, down between 40 and 60 cents. What do you see happening on ADA? Do you think we're done? Do you think that these are great accumulation ranges, or are we going to see another big movement to the downside that people should look at buying at that point?
So I think that Cardano looks really good right now. And one of the main reasons is that, once again, looking at this in a high to, this is not day trading setups. I mean, these are taking weeks to months to play out, right? Basically claim it, holding over your high time frame, once again, high volume area, your point of control, however you want to look at it, is very bullish, right? You want to be holding above that region. And for us, we're towards the bottom of the range with that. So with that being said, there's a lot more upside, kind of in this region to rotate this range in full, meaning to go from low to high. But your high is going to be coming in as your major resistance. One thing to note here is that, we've taken this over, and I put this update last night, and this daily level right here is kind of like the little line in the sand right now, because we just cannot get through it, right? It's just been holding us down, holding us down, holding us down. If you're going to throw over like, an inverse head and shoulders, or any kind of, a pattern or some kind of any other kind of correlation with this, you could, I suppose, and kind of consider this your neckline. But this daily level is very important to kind of crush through right now. It's about 55 cents. From there, you've got a local golden pocket right here, another daily level. But for me, I'd really be targeting this basically the range high, which is an untapped quarterly key level. So now this is 3 months of the average price of Cardano that we generated from last quarter, and we have not come back and tested it. So if you were to throw like I said, an inverse head and shoulders idea on this, I'm sure that basically aligns with that region as well. That comes in about 69 cents. And then from there, just a really simple idea. Obviously, we have to see how the market is as a whole. But if we're going to get these moves from Ethereum, if we're going to get this move out of Bitcoin, this would be what I'd be anticipating for Cardano. And essentially, 72 cents is the line in the sand that separates us from going back to $1. So that would be my major target for Cardano in the short term. Here would be all the way back up to the dollar region. And then, that obviously gets initiated once we start flipping this 55-cent region. So
absolutely.
No, that's real quick before we move on, Cardano. That's a big space between 70 cents, give or take, 69 cents, 70 cents, and then you said $1.14, $1.20.
Yep.
That's a big space. Is there any spot in between those two that you think it could get stopped at, or do you think if we can break through 70 cents with some good volume, that it's a straight shot back up to that $1.14?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be you can obviously see back in this region when we were creating, like I said, that everybody's looking for the Adam and Eve double bottom back in like March. You got some resistance right here. I really focus on, what would be, a big area. I mean, we probably get a pullback in that region, maybe come back, and essentially you'd want to really see this, right? Where say we just kind of plow through here, you'd probably get stopped here for a minute, get a pullback to a golden pocket of some degree. And then you kind of want to see this kind of break out. Maybe we run it back up to this region up here and then come back test this high. And then from there, we'd be taking off. And it's in my opinion, it would be a straight shot. I think this would get everybody really excited.
Yeah.
I think that this is one of the biggest things that's really important to have these levels kind of marked out or in your head or an idea, because when we get to these regions, this is not necessarily where you want to be buying back in, right? So it's very important to be considering putting on risk and things of that nature when you're at the lows. You got these high time frame regions, but then having your strategy in play for if we start to see these areas on the chart, what are you going to be doing in that, in that sentiment? So,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me ask you a little bit about XRP then also, because one of the things that we've seen out of ADA recently is that it's been going through, some pretty massive rallies over the last couple of years, but then it's also gone through a pretty big correction from 314, which was the all-time high, 320. August of last year, still down 82%. But if we look over at XRP, for example, you can see XRP is down from its local high of $2, 80%. It's down from its all-time high back when it went to 330. I remember this. I was here for this. It's still down 88% from that. XRP had a complete and total retracement, 96% from its all-time high. Do you think that XRP is going to be able to go into a bigger rally and reclaim all-time highs, or is XRP doomed to continue making lower highs on the multi-year time frame for the rest of its existence until it hopefully gets through with this SEC case?
Yeah, so XRP is one of my best examples of the bear market, which I ended up dealing with, right? Excuse me. And I always bring up XRP because when we're just talking about Cardano reaching up to 70 cents a dollar, in that area to not be really where you want to be looking into buying, at least for now, because we could just run it up. The overall idea for me is that we're going to run it up to 28, 30, 31K for Bitcoin, 2,400 for Ethereum, and then we could very well pull it all the way back down to 19K Bitcoin, 20K Bitcoin, 21, in that region, and then essentially give up all the gains that we just essentially made over the past couple months. So that's that major idea right there, right? And then with that being said, you're going to see 200% rallies, 100% rallies, 60, whatever the case is, and then you basically give up 50%, which you need to make 100% to make that back. And every time back in 2018, if I would have sold my XRP even at a loss, right, like in a sense, or if I was down in fiat version, but when we got the 30 cents, if I would have dropped out of it and bought back in at 15 to 17, you had several opportunities of that, in that 50% range, which was essentially a 100% move every time it impulsed. That's kind of what, you you can do, to obviously increase your holdings there. As far as your question on XRP, to going back to new all-time highs, I think that the market as a whole, we're not going to see that for, some time here. But to get extreme moves to the upside and then, kind of in an arranging fashion, right? So for XRP, for me, we're looking at right now this 38 cents level, right? So to me, once again, just like similar to Cardano, we got this daily level that's come in here. So unlike Cardano, XRP's actually managed to flip this pretty convincingly. We ran it up to our high volume target right here, got a back test of our daily, and we've been holding this now for quite a while. So in a sense of, to the downside, yeah, you lose this region, I'd be looking back to this golden pocket. You got the high volume node coming in right at this region as well. It's about a 10% pullback. If Bitcoin and Ethereum start pulling back harder, obviously, we probably revisit the range lows. But regardless, in a sense of upside, because I do think that that's where we're headed for the next foreseeable here. You really want to look for this 40 cent level, get flipped that. And then to me, I think that we have a really good shot at running this in the short term here, at least up to 54 cents. And then we got an overall golden pocket. This level right here, I'm trying to kind of showcase how I'm aligning all the levels of pretty much every chart in the sense of if Ethereum tops out at that level I'm looking at, which is about $2,400, that, every other coin will be reaching the same region of their chart essentially. And that's where you probably want to consider having a little caution, maybe taking a little profit, maybe setting some tighter stop loss in the short term, and then looking for a pullback to buy back lower, right? So, but for XRP, I do think it's going to range around. I don't think we're going to see new all-time highs anytime soon. SEC case, I don't necessarily follow that too much, to be honest, in the sense just because it's just it could be good news about it, it could be bad news about it, and I feel like the price action is just not necessarily as correlated as it could and should be. I do think that we just range this out for quite a bit more, and then just with the rest of the market as a whole. But I do think XRP will come through and make some new all-time highs in the future.
Yeah, hopefully that's going to happen for everybody who's holding XRP. I know a lot of people that bought XRP down around like a quarter, like 3 years ago, and they're still hoping they'll go to all-time high. So hopefully that's some encouraging news for you guys. Well, guys, we got time for one more. So, Paul, I want to get your opinion on Link, and then we're going to have to wrap it out.
Absolutely. And Chainlink is, I'm really glad you brought that one up. So Chainlink, when Tim and I were talking this morning, he asked me what I was looking at. And, there's just, as we all know, there's just certain times in the market where certain like sectors almost kind of move better, right? Sometimes you get the small caps, mid caps, low caps, whatever. But right now, it does really seem, when Ethereum's pushing, you got a lot of these, Polkadot, Chainlink, Cardano, although they haven't really pushed higher quite yet, I do think that they're all poised to make a really nice move here. Because like I said, they all look really, really well on these high time frames. And for Link, we've got this range right here that we've been tightly just, moving within, and very similar to how we were just looking at Cardano, right? You kind of had this point of control, the volume target really held, you're holding it to the upside. And right now we're rotating this range in full. So meaning that we've went from low to high. So it's not been a huge gain compared to some of the other altcoins, right? I think it's 60%, which I mean, that's still a really amazing window if you did manage to either get the low or you just held and didn't panic sell at the low. But from here, one of the biggest things for me with Link is that there's an untapped quarterly, so a high time frame target up here. And then if we re-enter this range right above us, this one that was pretty much printed from the last quarter here, it's pretty massive. And it's about 100% just from the low, not from where we are now, but from the low of that range to the high. It takes us back up to like $23. And then at that point, right, you do have some really big targets in the midst here. We got a point of control as well. We got the yearly open, which is going to come in into play pretty big as well. When you start dancing around your yearly key levels, that's a pretty big area to kind of pay attention for. But all in all, I think that Link, if we hold this 858 right now, and essentially you'd want to see basically this, I think this is how we'll dance this out unless we come back in, but you'll run it up, get that quarterly key level. You want to see this back test, this 850. And then from there, I think we'll end up kind of shooting into this region here. Same idea as everything else too, is that we would end up kind of ranging around here for a bit. And one, I guess, like an idea, just to kind of throw it out there for everybody. This is just literally, pure speculation. Don't, get married to it. I was going over this idea last night. Cardano, Ethereum, everything kind of looks like it. When you look back to the Adam and Eve double bottom situation back in like March of, for everything, when you start to look at this idea here and Cardano, this would mean, on equivalent, Cardano runs up to $1. that'd be a major target in my opinion. You got all the other, coins getting up to those regions with Bitcoin. What do you start to see here as far as a pretty bigger, region? And if we run up to this region, get a pullback, even back down to this low, once again, this is just a straight idea, could happen over a few weeks, but this, could really start printing out across the board, this big inverse head and shoulders, kind of take us into the end of the year on a lot of the larger caps here. And for one, Cardano would be probably pushing back up into the measured move, at least would be pushing that back up into the all-time high of like $3 and change. Once again, probably into next year or, down the road at some point. But interesting to note, and just, kind of keeping it, not to get too ahead of ourselves, I guess, but that would be what I'd be looking for out of Link here. So Link does look really good. Hasn't moved a lot, and I think people are getting really bored with it. I think a lot of these larger caps, people tend to kind of shove off a little bit because they're only catching like 5-10% moves. But we all know how quickly these do move. So once I think some of these levels are claimed, I think that we could see some really nice moves out of Link.
You know what I noticed, Paul, when I was looking at all of the charts that you brought up, and then you go and comparing them to others, the ones that you're bringing up have been suppressed. If you're looking at their charts, they're even though they've moved up a little bit, they don't have that same explosive growth that Ethereum has, that a couple other ones Matic has. Like these coins, and you kind of mentioned they right at the end, they've kind of been a little more boring than the other ones, but the market does act in waves where money flows from coin to coin, and it hasn't been their turn, but that's all more reason with all their fundamentals they already have, with everything they're working on already. We're talking about Cardano, we're talking about XRP. Now XRP has its own beast going on with the SEC, but with Chainlink, these are coins that great fundamentals. They didn't really get any explosive movement the way Ethereum, Matic, and some of the other ones have gotten. And it's almost like, man, it's about their turn. So I thought that was a really interesting correlation. I'm looking at some of the top 20. Other top 20 coins have been moving significantly. The ones that you just mentioned have not been. Is it their turn?
Yeah, seriously. Well, Paul, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and I really appreciate you breaking down those coins. We got some great price predictions, some really, really great in-depth analysis there. It's clear that you spend a lot of time looking at these different cryptocurrencies, and we're definitely going to have you back sometime very soon to look at some more of those altcoins. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap out with you, Paul?
Just once again, true privilege to be on the show with you all. Tim, great talking with you as always. Jebb, pleasure to meet you for the first time here.
Absolutely.
And, hope everything really works out for you, my friend. I know you're going through some things, and really excited to be a part of the show, in the future, if you guys have us back. And just really looking forward to hopefully some good green months at least ahead of us for the foreseeable future here.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for that, Paul. I really appreciate those kind words. And guys, make sure to go and follow Paul and Magic Internet Money. I believe both of their links are in the description box down below.
I don't know if if Kagan stuff is in here, but I'm going to have Kagan on the show here very soon.
Kagan's going to be on the show soon too. Also, if you go to CVO, you got his YouTube and his Twitter down in the description box. Make sure to go and follow him and Magic Internet Money while you're at it, Kagan. They got some incredible analysis. We're so very thankful to have them on our show. But speaking of altcoins, if you want to invest automatically in a plethora of different altcoins and also in Bitcoin, then there is a great way to do it. Let me just go ahead and segue on in to Smay.
Okay. You know what I was thinking about?
That could have been better.
Do you like shrubbery?
Hold on.
Do you like shrubs?
Hold on. I have a plan for this. All right.
He has a plan.
You know what's the most exhausting activity I could possibly think of?
What?
Getting on my computer, typing in www.genericexchange.com.
Grocery shopping.
And then going and dragging my mouse over to the thing, making an account, and then I have to put in my payment information, and then I have to buy cryptocurrencies.
Oof.
That is so exhausting. Versus, what if I just woke up one day? There's cryptocurrency in my wallet. Guys, you can set that up with a great company called Hedge. I love Hedge. It's basically a way to get past all the boring, gross exchange nightmare stuff.
That's right.
Where you have a bunch of these inflated fees, and you have to go on the website and all that stuff. It's crazy. Versus you could and you have to hold it on an exchange, which could maybe not be secure. So guess what you guys can do? You can have cryptocurrency just appear in your cold wallet by signing up with Hedge.
It's like a cryptocurrency stimulus check.
Payment solution. It is the best. I love it. Anyways, Tim, do you have some things to say about Hedge?
No, I was gonna give you a different segue. I thought that was great though. I loved that one.
You seem very judgmental.
I was gonna set you up with shrubbery, and you just wiped it away and you decided to go, we'll save it. We'll
but you know what
grab
else?
that idea. It's going in the pocket.
You know what
Let's
else
just put a
wipes
pin in that.
something away? Hedge wipes away the need to go on a dirty exchange. You
Whoa.
guys can just
Come on.
look. And here's the thing: there's a lot of talk nowadays about not wanting to keep your crypto on exchange,
That's
not your
true.
keys, not your crypto.
They don't even hold it.
Yeah, they don't hold it. It literally goes straight. It gets deposited straight into your cold wallet. So say you have a ledger, you have an Arculus, you have a ledger. We prefer ledgers. We love ledgers. So you know, if you have a ledger, you have a cold wallet, or hey, even you have a warm wallet. You know, one of those warm ones that are on a browser. Guys,
A hot
you
wallet.
Yeah, the warm ones.
It's cooking. You know,
Yeah,
it's
the warm wallets. You could have
Kind of
all
secure.
of that. You guys can have it sent there directly.
Goodness
So go check out Hedge. Link in the description.
Well, Smay, I'm gonna have to throw it right back to you because we got a bunch of super chats.
we gotta get our super
We
chats.
do
in.
have a.
We have
bunch.
30 seconds to run through all of
We
them
do
to the
have.
outro.
That's
Have
true.
we ended on time recently?
No.
Hey, listen, we are, I'm not even going to say unapologetic. We are the #1 crypto YouTube channel for starting on time.
That's right. In a year and a half, I think
we laxed on ending on time here
Okay.
recently.
All right. So
But it's the better of the two
So
evils.
you're talking right now is contributing to that. So I'm gonna go ahead and
it was
read
already
these
gonna
super
happen.
chat. I'm
It was
gonna
already
read
gonna happen.
these.
It was gonna happen.
So we have Martine Siebels is a new
Martine
member,
Siebels.
and then
Again,
he
welcome back,
upgraded.
Martine.
He upgraded to a Jedi Padawan.
on.
So
Thank
shout
you.
out.
Woo!
We have Gregory Grezik. I think I know that guy. I don't know.
Grezik?
What a guy.
He
I know
said
that guy.
88 price prediction for December 2022.
0. I'm sorry,
right,
Greg. I know
anyways.
you're all in.
I think it's gonna be more than it is now.
I think it's gonna be higher.
Next, we have Magic Musician says, "Hey, I want to shill a coin." Next, we have.
Thank you for your money.
Next-
Not an ad placement.
Next, we have Fumby. He said, "E."
Bumpy.
He said what?
He said, "E."
Come on.
These super chats are
I think
so
it's pronounced
quality.
eh.
Guys,
Eh.
these super chats are the most quality I've ever seen. Next, we have NMCT says, I saw on the stock channel that the SP500 is going to hit the long-term resistance in 48 hours. Roughly the same time, Bitcoin is going to hit 26K resistance. How deep do you think both will drop?
I think both of them will drop a good bit, but my question is, how do you know that that's going to happen? Like, what stock channel
It's
is
just-
telling you this is going to happen?
They're probably just
This
talking
is
about
for
the TA of it going to
Yeah, no, I think that Bitcoin will probably drop down to around 22K. If it drops, it could drop down as low as 22K, maybe I should say.
Great. All right.
Right.
Next,
I
we
think the
have-
best way to put that is 22K is the spot to watch.
That's the bottom.
And then wait for that, and then let's watch to see who gains control at that point, Bears or Bulls. Because I still think there's a chance we go down to 21, but that's
right.
strong case.
That's right.
Next, we have from Ryan O'Man says, I'm curious how to tithe off of crypto. Do you just tithe off of the realized profits, weekly profits, or monthly profits?
As far as tithing your profits?
As in, what I think that means is like taking your profits.
Okay, as far as taking
Like-
your profits.
like,
or does he
in,
mean
like,
giving
laddering
10%
out.
to the church? I'm not sure which one he means.
No, I don't think it
He
means
said
to take.
tithe? Okay, that's an interesting
Yeah.
use case of the word tithe. Well, the thing is, you can ladder out on a weekly basis. That's probably what I would do as far as inverse dollar cost averaging. You're just, instead of buying every Friday, you sell every Friday. You want to be doing that anyway in a bull market when you're setting newer highs, newer highs, newer highs, newer highs. You can be laddering out. A lot of people don't realize you can dollar cost average the bottoms, but you can also dollar cost average out on the tops. I would probably do a weekly basis personally, but that's really one of those questions where you kind of have to know the situation to give a good answer to that. So that's just general. I don't know your position, your portfolio, or the way you manage it, so I can't really give you a great personalized answer for that.
Also, you can give 10% of those weekly profits to church. So
church,
that's
that's right.
tithing. So
Praise God.
next we have from Magic Magician. He donated €4 and he says, shill a coin. So he shilled some more coins.
I love
So-
the way you read those now.
Yeah, so we're
Shill a
just
coin.
gonna
They're
not
just gonna put
read
coins in
that.
our pocket.
So next we have from Eric Leon says, could this not be the dead cat bounce that we were talking about that brings us lower prices?
I'm so confused by the negative there. Could this not be the dead cat bounce that we were talking? Am I the only one that is having trouble
So
understanding what he's saying?
I'll translate for you.
Okay.
He says, is this not the dead cat bounce
Isn't
we've been
this-
talking about?
Isn't this?
Isn't
this
it?
the
Yeah.
dead cat bounce we were talking about? Yes, probably.
As someone who
To be
yeah,
honest,
as someone
probably.
who uses double negatives all the time.
So
I
he's
got what
he's asking you to confirm.
The
if
question,
this
the
is
answer
what-
though
yeah.
to his
Tim, I don't
question
not
is
love
yes,
you.
it absolutely could be. We just gotta wait and see.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. That is indeed the answer.
That was a good answer.
Guys, those were some great questions.
That's all we
Hopefully
have.
they were some good answers.
a good
Thank you
one.
very much for all those super chats, and thank you very much for getting hedge.io. The link's down below. And make sure that you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to follow all of us, including Paul over at CVO.
Especially Paul.
Over on his Twitter and his YouTube. Guys, that's all we got for you today. Before we go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling.